The car ride home was a mix of excitement and nerves. The hum of the engine was a gentle backdrop to the flurry of emotions swirling inside me. I kept glancing over at the passenger seat, where a new chapter of my life was quietly beginning. Every mile brought us closer to home, and I could feel the anticipation building with each passing moment. In the passenger seat, nestled in a soft blanket, was Max, an 8-week-old German Shepherd puppy, all fluff and giant paws. His tiny body seemed almost swallowed by the blanket, but his presence filled the car with warmth and hope. He looked so small, yet I could already sense the big personality waiting to emerge. His floppy ears and curious eyes took in everything, unsure but trusting. Every new sound and sight was a mystery to him, but he watched the world with a gentle curiosity. The way he tilted his head at passing cars and flickering shadows made me smile. It was clear he was trying to make sense of this strange, moving world, but he seemed to trust that I would keep him safe. I kept glancing at him, heart swelling. This was the start of our adventure. I couldn't help but imagine all the memories we'd create together. Walks in the park, games of fetch, quiet evenings at home. In that moment I realized how much my life was about to change, and I welcomed it with open arms. When we arrived, I gently opened his carrier. Max sniffed the air, then stepped out, exploring the living room like a tiny, furry explorer. His nose twitched as he took in the new scents, and his tail wagged hesitantly. Every step was cautious, but his curiosity pushed him forward. The living room, once so familiar to me, suddenly felt brand new as I watched him discover it for the first time. He whimpered softly, and I knew my job was to make him feel safe and loved. Max sniffed every corner, checked my sneakers, and even paused to investigate the rug. Each new discovery was met with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. I could see him processing everything, trying to decide what was safe and what was strange. And every so often he would return to lick my hand before venturing out again. It was his way of checking in, making sure I was still there, his anchor in this unfamiliar place. Those little moments of connection reassured both of us that we were in this together. I spoke to him in a soft, encouraging voice, letting him explore at his own pace. I wanted him to know that he was safe, that this was his home now. My words were gentle, filled with love and reassurance. I watched as his confidence grew with each step, his tail wagging a little more with every new discovery. As evening settled, Max grew tired. I scooped him up, and he snuggled into my chest, falling asleep. The rise and fall of his tiny breaths against my heart was the sweetest comfort. In that quiet moment the world outside faded away, leaving just the two of us and the promise of a new beginning. Holding him, I felt a deep sense of responsibility and connection. I knew that from this day forward, I would be his protector, his teacher, and his best friend. The bond we were forming was already strong, and I could feel it growing with every heartbeat. This wasn't just a puppy, this was family. Max was more than a pet. He was a new member of our home, ready to fill our days with laughter, love, and a little bit of chaos. I could see the joy he brought to everyone who met him, and I knew he was meant to be here. The chaos and cuddles had begun, and I wouldn't trade that moment for anything. Already Max was making his presence known, bounding after toys, tumbling over his own paws, and curling up beside me whenever he needed comfort. Every playful bark and wag of his tail was a reminder of the happiness he brought into our lives. Our journey together had started on a perfect, peaceful note. As Max drifted off to sleep, I looked around our home and felt a sense of completeness I hadn't known before. This was just the beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where our adventure would take us next. Before Max came home, I set up his own space, a quiet corner of the living room, away from the main traffic but close enough to see me. A plush bed, water and food bowls, and a few chew toys made it his kingdom. I added an old t-shirt with my scent to comfort him. When I introduced Max to his corner, he sniffed everything, then settled onto the bed with encouragement and a treat. The first night, I sat with him until he dozed off, guiding him back if he woke up. Soon he understood this was his safe spot and would go there on his own. It was a small but important step in making him feel truly at home. Establishing a routine was key. Puppies thrive on predictability, and Max was no exception. Our days started early with a potty break, breakfast, and gentle play before his morning nap. Potty training meant frequent trips outside with lots of praise and treats for success. Accidents happened, but I stayed patient. He was just learning. Playtime was short and frequent, with gentle games of fetch and tug, building our bond. Feeding was structured, 3 times a day, always after a calm sit. This regularity helped with digestion and made potty breaks predictable. Each day was a cycle of eating, playing, sleeping, and learning. These simple routines laid the foundation for a happy, well-behaved companion. The rhythm brought us closer one day at a time. Life with Max was never dull. One day I felt a wet nose on my ear. He'd snuck a sock from the laundry and presented it proudly. His first encounter with a mirror was hilarious. He barked, play-bowed, and tried to befriend his own reflection. Then there was the toilet paper incident. 1 minute unattended and the bathroom looked like a snowstorm. Max sat in the middle of the mess, tail wagging, proud of his work. The zoomies were a regular event. He'd race around, skidding and bouncing, then collapse in a happy heap. These moments were chaotic but endearing, pure expressions of puppy joy. Each mishap was a lesson in patience and puppy-proofing. Through laughter and a little chaos, we learned together. Every day brought new surprises and memories. These stories became the heart of our early days. Building a bond with Max was my top priority. It went beyond food and shelter. It was about trust and connection. Gentle handling and affection helped him get used to being touched, crucial for future vet visits and grooming. Playtime was our language. He learned my cues and I learned his. Max became my little shadow, always nearby, finding comfort in my presence. I included him in daily life, talking to him, letting him watch me cook or relax by my side. Consistency built his trust, meals, potty breaks, and always being there when he needed help. In return, he gave me loyalty and love, greeting me with joy every time I walked in. Our bond grew stronger with every shared moment. We were becoming a true team. The first vet visit was a big milestone. I prepped Max by handling his paws, ears, and mouth, rewarding him for calmness. On the day, I brought his favorite toy and treats. The clinic was calm, and the staff greeted him gently. Max sniffed around, curious but not scared. The vet examined him slowly, giving chin scratches and explaining each step. For his first shots I distracted him with a treat. He barely noticed the poke. The visit ended with praise and advice on health and socialization. Max handled it like a champ, and I left relieved and proud. The positive experience set the tone for future visits. Vet trips became just another adventure, not something to fear. It was a crucial step in his socialization. After Max received all his vaccinations, it was finally time for his very first real walk outside. This was a moment I'd been looking forward to since the day I brought him home. I knew how important these first experiences would be for him, shaping his confidence and curiosity about the world. In preparation, I'd spent several days getting him comfortable with his collar and leash indoors. We practiced walking around the living room and hallway, letting him drag the leash behind him so he could get used to the feeling. At first, he was a little unsure, but soon he was trotting around with his tail up, ready for the next step. On the big day, I clipped the leash onto his collar, and his tail wagged furiously with excitement. He seemed to sense that something special was about to happen. His eyes sparkled with anticipation, and he bounced around my feet, eager to see what was waiting beyond the front door. As we stepped outside together, Max paused at the doorway, taking in the fresh air and the unfamiliar sights and smells. The world seemed so big to him, cars passing by, birds chirping, the rustle of leaves in the wind. He stood still for a moment, his nose twitching as he tried to process it all. I didn't rush him. Instead, I knelt down and spoke to him softly, encouraging him to take his time. With a little coaxing, he took his first hesitant steps onto the grass, his paws sinking into the cool earth. I could see his confidence growing with every sniff and every step. Our walk was less about distance and more about discovery. Max stopped to sniff every single blade of grass, his nose working overtime as he tried to make sense of all the new scents. He watched squirrels dart up trees and listened to the distant barking of other dogs. Every sound and movement was a new adventure for him. We barely made it down the block, and that was perfectly fine. The goal wasn't to go far but to help Max feel safe and happy outside. Each step he took was a little victory, and I celebrated them all. I kept the leash loose, giving him the freedom to explore at his own pace. Whenever he walked nicely by my side, I praised him with gentle words and a few treats. I wanted him to know that exploring the world together was a good thing, and that I'd always be there to guide him. Teaching him not to pull on the leash was a slow but steady process. Whenever the leash got tight, I stopped walking and waited for him to come back to me. When the leash was loose, we moved forward again. It took patience, but Max was a quick learner, and I could see him starting to understand. Along the way, we met a friendly neighbor who knelt down to say hello and offered Max a treat. This was a wonderful opportunity for him to have a positive experience with new people, and he accepted the treat with a wagging tail and a happy grin. By the time we got home, Max was completely exhausted. He flopped down on his dog bed, eyes half closed, and drifted off to sleep, almost immediately. I could tell he was dreaming about all the new things he'd seen and smelled, his paws twitching as he relived his little adventure. That first walk may have been a small adventure in terms of distance, but for Max, it was a huge step into a bigger world. It was the beginning of many more adventures to come, and I couldn't wait to see where our journey would take us next. Training began the moment Max came home, woven into daily life. From the very first step he took into our home, every moment became an opportunity to teach and to learn. The excitement of a new environment was clear in his curious eyes and wagging tail, but it also meant that the foundation for good habits had to be laid right away. Positive reinforcement was key: treats, praise, and toys for good behavior. I quickly learned that Max responded best when he felt encouraged and rewarded. Every time he made the right choice, whether it was sitting calmly or coming when called, he was met with a cheerful "good boy" and a tasty treat or a favorite toy. This approach made training feel like a game, not a chore, for both of us. Sit was our first command. He learned it quickly, proud to show off for a treat. Watching him master this simple task filled me with pride, and it gave Max a sense of accomplishment. It was amazing to see how eager he was to please, and how quickly he connected the dots between the command, the action, and the reward. Chewing was a challenge. He gnawed on rugs and remotes, but I redirected him to his toys and puppy-proofed the house. Like any puppy, Max was teething and curious, so anything within reach became fair game. I learned to keep shoes, cords, and other tempting objects out of sight, and made sure his own toys were always available. Redirecting his energy took patience, but it paid off as he slowly learned what was his and what wasn't. Barking was another hurdle. I taught quiet by rewarding him for stopping after a bark or two. At first, every new sound set him off, but with gentle guidance and consistent rewards, he began to understand when it was time to settle down. It was a process, but each small victory made our home a little more peaceful. Progress was slow but steady, with patience and consistency. Some days felt like we were taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but I reminded myself that learning takes time, for both of us. The key was to keep showing up, to keep trying, and to celebrate every bit of progress no matter how small. We worked on stay and come, keeping sessions short and fun. I found that Max learned best when training felt like playtime, so we kept things light and ended on a positive note. These commands were more than just tricks, they were building blocks for safety and trust. Each small success felt huge, building our communication and trust. The first time Max held a stay while I walked across the room or came running when I called, it felt like we'd climbed a mountain together. These moments reminded me that training was about more than obedience, it was about connection. Training wasn't just about commands, it was about learning to work together. Every session deepened our bond, teaching us both patience, understanding, and teamwork. I realized that Max was teaching me as much as I was teaching him. Troubles were just bumps on our journey to becoming a great team. There were days when frustration crept in, but I learned to see mistakes as opportunities to grow. With every challenge, we became more in sync, learning to trust and rely on each other. Every challenge was a chance to grow. Each time Max struggled with a new command or got distracted, I reminded myself that persistence and kindness would get us through. Watching him overcome obstacles made every effort worthwhile. Max was learning, and so was I. Together we discovered that training was not just about shaping his behavior, but about building a lifelong partnership based on trust, respect, and love. Every day brought new lessons, and every lesson brought us closer together. 3 months in, it was hard to remember life without Max. He'd grown, bigger paws, longer legs, and ears that stood up one at a time, giving him a goofy charm. The house was alive with his energy and love. Our routine was second nature: potty breaks, meals, play, and cuddles. Accidents were rare, and he'd mastered sit and was improving at stay and come. Challenges remained, chewing, zoomies, but they were part of the joy. The bond we'd built was the most rewarding part. Max was my shadow, my loyal companion, always by my side. Looking at him now, I felt pride and excitement for the future. Our adventure was just beginning, and I couldn't wait for what was next.